Dear Sheikh, thank you. First of all, welcome to RT Balkan.
Thank you so much, Maria. I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure having you. I wanted to start from current events, let's say it like that, and somehow I can feel it that we are going to end up in eschatology. Of course, I'm talking about the recognition of Palestine, and we have this series of recognitions, even by Great Britain, which is the state that actually created Israel. And one has to be really politically illiterate to think that this is not going to escalate the situation in the Middle East. So somehow I think they're doing this on purpose. Am I wrong?
Maria, I don't think that there is any sincere change of heart amongst those in the West, like France and Portugal and so on, who are now extending recognition to a Palestinian state. They have consistently in the past been supporters of Israel, and I believe that internally they still remain supporters of Israel, but that something has changed which is required of them to make this step that they have now taken. And that is that Israel's conduct has changed. Where previously Israel was circumspect, sometimes acting clandestinely in advancing its agenda in the Holy Land, in Palestine, and in particular in Gaza. What has now happened since October 23, when, in my opinion, Israel set a trap for the Islamic resistance in Gaza. They call themselves Hamas. I refer to them as the Islamic resistance. Weapons which were being sent to Ukraine somehow mysteriously ended up in Gaza. Perhaps it was Santa Claus who did it. And because the Islamic resistance did not have enough insight and they could not read what was happening, they felt as though this was their chance to attack Israel. Israel knew the attack was coming. Egypt warned Israel 2 days before the attack was coming. Israel was prepared to allow 1,000 of their own people to be killed in order to advance their 9/11. There are many kinds of lies. There are normal lies, and then there are great lies, and then there is 9/11. And this was Israel's 9/11.
And do you think that what's happening now with these recognitions of Palestine, it's also some kind of a Israel game, playing games, because that would give them a casus belli. Actually, the West is giving them the alibi to escalate the attacks
No, I
on
don't
Palestine.
think it's a game, no. I think that Israel's conduct since October 23 is different from previously. Mm-hmm. Now Israel is openly acting in this aggressive way, and public opinion around the world is now coalescing in support of Palestine. In the United States of America, university campuses and American students, despite so many years of brainwashing on the part of the media in America, yet, despite all of that, American students were coming out openly in support of Palestine. And there were demonstrations in Britain and all the parts of the world. And then, as the Western world realized that Israel is pursuing genocide in Palestine, regardless of public opinion, the Western world realized that we are now sitting on a time bomb, that our own people will turn against us if we do not do something. This is called damage control. I don't think there's any sincere change of heart on the part of France, for example, in its relations with Palestine. It's just a matter that the French government is afraid of the French people.
And Starmer himself, he is a Zionist. We learned that only 2 or 3 weeks ago. He said that he is actually Jewish and that he is Zionist. And that's what I find actually strange. You have mentioned the pressure from the public opinion in Western countries, which is okay and that exists. But I found it interesting that those kind of materials suffering from Gaza ended up on YouTube, ended up on social media, and we do know that West actually controls very much social media, all social media, and I think they just did it on purpose in order to make the people react. Don't you think it's strange how that happened?
I cannot comment about it because I did not observe it myself. What I can comment about is that there is no sincere change of heart on the part of these countries which are now extending recognition to Palestine.
Exactly, and I'm sure that actually they do know that Israel is going to hit hard because of this.
Now,
is that what they are wanted?
What I want to add from my Islamic eschatological perspective, and I believe both Christian and Muslims in this region of the world would be interested in learning something they don't know about. And that is that in Islamic eschatology, I have come to the conclusion that there is the Antichrist. The Christian knows the Antichrist. Oh yes, the whole of the Balkans know about the Antichrist. But this is not taught in the classrooms of political science. No. The West says you must keep religion and politics separate. I don't accept that. And so we know that the Antichrist, we know of him as Dajjal, the false Messiah. All the Muslims of the Balkans know about this. And we know that the Quran speaks about the Antichrist, Dajjal, but that he is first of all a shadow before he appears in person. And the shadow comes in 3 parts. When I wrote my book, Jerusalem in the Quran, which has not been translated to Serbian, 25 years ago, I said from my perspective of international relations, in the first part of the shadow, modern Western civilization gave us Pax Britannica, with a mysterious obsession with the Holy Land, culminating in the Balfour Declaration. And then, in the second part of the shadow, this is Suratul Mursalat of the Quran, and the Muslim audience there will go to the Quran and find Suratul Mursalat and about the shadow. In the second part of the shadow, modern Western civilization gave us Pax Americana. I studied international relations, Maria, in 2 universities. Pax America didn't fall from the sky. There must be a reason why it emerged. And now there is a third part of the shadow which is supposed to come, because there are 3 parts. And I said in that book 25 years ago that the third part of the shadow would be a Pax Judaica.
And when we spoke last time, only several months ago, I have asked you that question. Do you think that we are already living in Pax Judaica? And you were hesitant, and now I think you have changed your mind.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, I was hesitant because I always held the view that the passage from Pax Britannica to Pax Americana required 2 world wars, the First World War and the Second World War. And millions had to die, particularly Russians. And therefore I came to the conclusion that the passage from Pax Americana to the third part that I consider to be Pax Judaica, and history is now moving in that direction, Maria, that this cannot be achieved without the big war, what we call Armageddon, and we call the Malhama. Every Muslim in the Balkan knows about the Malhama. Our Prophet spoke about it. And so I said, Pax Judaica will not come until after the Great War. But then when I saw what happened in October 23, I realized that the Israeli Mossad had set up Hamas, or the Islamic movement, sent the weapons into Gaza. It wasn't Santa Claus, no. And they provoked Hamas into acting the way they did. And because they had no insight, basar, insight, intuitive, internal, spiritual insight, they fell for the trap. Now, I know there are many who will differ with me, but please bear with mine. There's a judgment day when everything will be revealed, and it will be shown that I am correct, that Israel set them up, so that Israel could now pursue an agenda that they required 7th October, for the same way the United States pursued an agenda, and they had 9/11 for it, like taking over Afghanistan. And so now Israel is acting in a different way. Israel wants to export the entire Palestinian population out of Gaza. It's not just those who are fighting Israel, it's everybody, every Christian, every Muslim. Throw them out. This is called ethnic cleansing. And they've killed, I don't know, 60, 70,000 already. They don't care for human life. And they're now using starvation as a weapon to kill people through starvation. And this is not going down nicely at all in the world, because we now live in an age in which news travels all over the world instantaneously. Hand phones can take photographs, and the photographs are going around the world. And so public opinion is rising up against Israel around the world. Maria, all around the world now there's the chant, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Yes. So now what is happening is that Israel is pursuing an open and a naked agenda of genocide on the Palestinian people, and the Western world is now scared. What will our people do with us if we don't do something to save face as damage control? So now then, we have Israel doing something else in addition to genocide against the Palestinians. What is the definition of genocide? I am in the Balkans. Let me take an opportunity to teach our people, Maria, with your permission.
Of course.
There's a difference between a massacre and a genocide. A massacre can be committed by individuals or by groups, and you don't blame a whole nation for it. That's a massacre. What happened in the Americas with the extermination of the American Indian people, it was not isolated Americans committing it. This was being done by a nation of people who came from Europe. That was genocide. And the blame goes on the entire nation, except for those who separate themselves from it publicly. So now then, what happened in Gaza, it was not isolated events from individuals, it was the state itself. And unless you separate yourself from the state, you are part and parcel of it. This is genocide. So now then, what is happening in Gaza is genocide. But Israel doesn't care about public opinion. The United Nations can declare genocide. Israel doesn't care. So now the Western world is waking up. This is a different Israel. This is not an Israel who is still a partner of ours. No, this is an Israel who is pursuing her agenda regardless of how we suffer. Then Israel did something more than that. Israel launched an attack on Iran and then got the United States to follow an attack on Iran. And the Israelis said, yes, we did it. They didn't hide it. In the past, they will attack, and they never said, we did it. But this time said, we did it. They killed so many Iranian nuclear scientists. They killed the chief of staff of the Iranian armed forces. They killed the head of the Revolutionary Guards. All right? And yes, Iran did respond with missiles and so on, and we give credit to Iran for that. But Israel says, we're going to do it again. And the United States says, we'll do it again.
So basically, Israel is doing whatever it wants.
Whatever Israel wants to do. But something else just happened. That is that Qatar has the largest American military base in the whole region. Qatar is like Kosovo. And Qatar would expect that if we are hosting the biggest American military base in the region, it should offer us some measure of protection.
And happened what?
And what happened was that Israel launched an attack on Qatar to attack the Islamic resistance in Qatar. And the United States never lifted even a little finger to stop Israel. And the Israeli attack on Qatar sent a message not only to Qatar and to the Arab world, but also it sent a message to Uncle Sam. It said to Trump, we are now the boss over here. You are not the boss anymore. And so, Maria, from the perspective of Islamic eschatology, and I have to speak gently because our people are not familiar with this kind of analysis. It's not taught in the institutions of Islamic learning. This is new knowledge for them, and we only hope and pray that it'll sink in eventually. What is happening, Maria, is that the attack on Gaza, brazen genocide, the attack on Iran, killing so many, destroying nuclear plants and so on, and the attack on Qatar, all confirm that we are now at the location of the beginning of Pax Judaica. That there are three parts of the shadow. In Taliku, this is the verse of the Quran, if you allow me to recite it in Arabic.
Sure.
In Taliku, ila zillin zi salasi shu'ab. This is known as a verse which has to be interpreted in order to be understood. The Bible is like that as well. When we interpret the Quran, there's no need for any boxing gloves. Only the Lord God can confirm an interpretation is correct. But if I interpret the Quran and my interpretation is correct, then, Maria, this is truth. And truth will prevail. I will die, but the truth will prevail. If my interpretation is wrong, it'll go down the river of no return tomorrow, it'll be forgotten. So I am saying, this is my interpretation of the Quran, that we are now located in the third part of the shadow, which is now beginning. Pax Americana is going into the sunset. Trump cannot make America great again.
And dollar?
And Israel is now taking over from the United States in the Middle East. And so what are the implications for the world? The implications for the world is that Israel is not going to tolerate all forces which are obstacles to her. And one of the first obstacles that Israel is going to deal with is the United Nations organization, which is increasingly now turning against Israel and United States cannot prevent it. And so I am suggesting that the United States is not, the United Nations is not going to survive. I am suggesting that Israel is going to plan for the United States to collapse, the United Nations, sorry, and it's simple. All that you have to do is to withdraw the funding, and the United Nations will collapse. This is the first implication for me of the emergence of Pax Judaica.